Ever since EA's ill-fated attempt to replace Tiger Woods as its cover athlete in 2015, the video game golfing landscape has been rather barren. PGA 2K23 attempted to fill the void with a focus on multiplayer over a single-player career mode. EA Sports PGA Tour is an excellent, if flawed, attempt that provides an extremely realistic golfing simulation combined with a deep single-player experience.
That one had to feel good.
Yeah, struck it so well, you could see that by the reaction.
I normally wouldn't start with what's frustrating about a game, but that's exactly what the beginning of EA Sports PGA Tour is. Frustrating. To say this game is not beginner-friendly is a massive understatement. That's mostly due to the utter lack of any sort of tutorial. I've played a number of golf games, including old EA titles, and not only did it take me several minutes just to figure out how to aim my shots, but quite a ways into my first tournament to determine how to make fine-grained power adjustments, especially when putting. It even took me a while to find the wind gauge. I can't imagine what a newcomer to the genre would experience. There are okay explanations of the different shot types, but they're buried in the beginner level challenges that could have served as a tutorial if they actually explained anything. The game also throws a myriad of settings at you right from the get-go, and while it provides reasonable presets and the ability to change pretty much all of your choices at any point, this could easily prove overwhelming. Graphically, I was unable to get consistent frame rates at anything above 2K resolution, even with an RTX 2080 graphics card. That did match up with the recommended high settings though, so this is more of a frustration at the lack of optimization rather than a default broken experience. The difficulty settings were also challenging to gauge in terms of what I would want on and off, though the Tour or Hard preset has been pretty much right for me so far. There are relatively few bugs, but one was really annoying. If you enter a playoff, the game animations go a little haywire, swapping leaderboards in and out all over the place. The rules screen then goes by way too quickly. I only got as far as I was supposed to be playing in a 3-hole aggregate across holes 16 through 18. Then it claimed that my shot, that I hadn't actually hit yet, went out of bounds and locked me into a view full of grass, not being able to do anything else. I was able to quit the round and come back in, where it proceeded to put both playoff participants on 13 and not 16. I think it was then basically a 6-hole playoff, as it never updated my opponent's score. I did win in the end, but the experience felt highly glitchy. Other playoff bugs have been reported as well. While these should be rare, I expect the game to handle the situation correctly. At least it has a playoff system, instead of making the tournament a tie. After player, difficulty, and graphics setup, the next choice to make is where to start your career. There are 5 amateur tours to pick from, 2 in the US and 3 international. You're again thrown into the deep end to a large degree here, as the very first event is the USGA Amateur Championship, either male or female. Your starting golfer is good enough to win that event with a bit of skill, but the resulting invitation to the Masters and US Open, if you do, will result in a very rude awakening, as it's very unlikely you have enough skills to do well in either. Q School for the Korn Ferry Tour comes after that, which is a much more approachable test. The subsequent tournaments on the Korn Ferry Tour and eventually the PGA Tour all follow the same 4-round format used in the real world. Unfortunately, EA Sports clearly did not get licenses for all of the actual PGA Tour events, so outside of the majors, there were relatively few real events included. To help improve your golfer outside of events, there are numerous practice challenges available. While beneficial, they seem very tedious and demand absolute perfection alongside lucky RNG draws in most cases to actually get 3 stars. There's also a quick play mode that will allow you to play on any course in a variety of formats, as well as online tournaments that I didn't explore. All of the XP you get goes into a variety of skill trees for each phase of the game, from driving to putting. Each level provides a noticeable improvement in your character's skill, and many unlock new shot types for navigating around the course. Those skill improvements, power especially, are a must-have for staying competitive on harder courses as you progress throughout your career. There's only one real morally problematic element of EA Sports PGA Tour, the handling of female golfers. While it's great that they're included in the game, it's a little odd, if understandable, that they're participating in men's events, due to the lack of an LPGA career mode. But what's really weird is the ability of a male golfer to participate in the USGA Women's Amateur, and since the standard USGA Amateur is also available regardless of gender, vice versa. Not to mention the utter disassociation of pronouns from golfer appearance, which not only panders to our gender-fluid culture, it further entrenches the any gender can play any event mechanic, that is just not very realistic, apart from any moral considerations. There's also a number of challenges that require playing as a female golfer. Fortunately, nearly all of them are categorized under the LPGA heading, and so are easy to find and avoid. And since all challenges are not just optional, but are tedious and only provide fairly paltry rewards, I didn't feel like I was missing out by skipping them. Finally, it's possible when using AI pairings to be accidentally playing alongside a golfer of the wrong gender. Granted, this feature wasn't a major boost to my gameplay experience, and even drastically slowed the game down to watch the other player's shots. Thankfully, you can turn it on or off before any round. Once you've learned the controls and picked appropriate events for your character, though, the actual golfing is excellent. Assuming you turn off the more blatantly cheating options available in the difficulty settings, it feels like a really good approximation of real-world golf. The wind, slope of the lie, terrain characteristics of the landing area, and loft of the club all play an important role in determining exactly where your ball ends up on every stroke. This is true even to the point of frustration during the early events, as your golfer doesn't really have the ability to shoot onto the vast majority of par 3s in a way where the ball actually holds the green. Outside of the challenges, the randomness of any given swing, represented by the accuracy attribute, actually cuts both ways in terms of making the game more realistic. Off the tee, the error radius is usually small enough that there's no real risk of a truly awful shot without a mistake in the actual stick movement. On approach shots, however, it can make it very hard to land the ball anywhere near the hole. Regardless, when having to constantly account for rollout, there were very few shots that felt truly safe as I hit them. Putting is certainly as tricky as ever, with the classic beaded grid system in full force like every other golf game. Greens tend to play quite fast, so controlling swing power is crucial. At even medium distances, a strong break in the green makes it extremely difficult to pick the correct line for the ball, just like in real life. My only real complaint on putting was the lack of explanation around shooting for a farther or closer in target on steep hills to adjust the power meter. Overall, having played what was widely regarded as one of the better golf simulators in the past, Golf Club 2, EA Sports PGA Tour feels very much at the same ballpark. A solid round for me was often around 4 under par, which is not uncommon for actual professionals. Even though I won my very first tournament on the PGA Tour, I certainly had to work for it. What really stands out about EA Sports PGA Tour to me, separates it from the other golf games out there, is the entire aesthetic of the game, from the courses to the golfers, and especially the telecast presentation. Each tour and major tournament gets its own logos, colors, even hype videos and trophies. And of course, all the courses are beautiful and incredibly realistic. But what really impresses me is the little details.
This is a little bit like dropping Fenway Park into the desert, trading a baseball bat for a golf club.
Fans are actually in the grandstands, not just sprinkled around the green. Most of the courses have specific hole-by-hole commentary that would not seem out of place in a real broadcast. Each hole has a drone flyby sequence that includes the current position of the flag, though curiously, no fans. And most importantly, or at least most obviously, each round uses realistic tee times. For the first 2 rounds, you play 1 round in the morning and 1 in the afternoon. On the weekend, you're paired up just like a real tournament would be. This means that the leaders actually go out last and can see everyone else's score as the round progresses. It all adds up to a very high sense of realism not achieved in other titles. As with other sports games, there's certainly the occasional gaffe in matching the recorded commentary to the current situation, or even an incorrect reaction from a golfer. But on the whole, these seem minimal and were drowned out by the on-point comments made by the 4-person broadcast team. All of the main sounds were great, and the crowd even quiets down when you're ready to swing, just like in real life. For a guy who will never play on the PGA Tour, this may be as close as I get. I really liked 95% of what EA Sports PGA Tour has to offer. The high level of realism was primarily only soured by the mixed gender tournaments, which leaves it with a morality score of 4 out of 5. Unfortunately, the remaining 5% was exceptionally painful. Utterly absent instructions and an extremely buggy playoff system drop its quality score to 3 out of 5. This game stuck its approach shot right on the green, but 3-putted for a bogey.